Good morning and welcome to this week's Consulting Room Business Updates with me, Michael Hardy. So first thing this week, we've seen that inflation is lower but still rising. So although the headline is it's down from last month, it's still 3.1% up from last year. And that means that the cost of things that you are buying, whether to supply or whether you're a consumer, are going up. And obviously, as a business, that's something we need to be aware of. And we've talked before about the Bank of England and the challenges they have because they've got a target of 2% inflation. So it's going down this month. So the headline is it's down, but actually it's still up from last year. And this is before the gas prices and other energy increases that we're seeing come through. So we're definitely heading towards that 4%. So that is going to put pressure on the Bank of England, who have said that they will have to act. So this came out a couple of days ago with the inflation going up and staying up, and obviously 4% is definitely on the horizon. The Bank of England have said they will definitely have to act. So how will that affect your business? What finance have you got that is linked to the rate of interest from the Bank of England? Is it an overdraft? Is it a loan? Is it some other debt? How will that affect your business if the interest rate from the Bank of England goes up? Are you aware? It's worth checking now. It's worth speaking to your lenders or your banks to ensure that all your understanding of what will change if the Bank of England raise their rates, because we're probably only 3 months at most away from that happening. I'm certainly not an economist, but I would think by January, February next year, we will see that happen. So just be aware that that will have an effect on you, both business-wise and potentially personally as well with your mortgages, etc. So labour shortage, we've talked a lot about labour shortage over the past few months. 1.1 million vacancies, lots of people out of work, but not necessarily having the skills that are needed for those jobs that are available. And we now start to see the battle to recruit. Amazon offering £3,000 as a signing on fee for new staff in high demand areas. So if you're looking for work in Exeter, as an example, they will pay you £3,000 to sign on to take on a job with Amazon. Now, how does that affect our small and medium-sized businesses? It's going to put massive pressure on their workforce, because can you compete with that sort of investment? So ensure that you're investing in training, ensure that your whole remuneration package is robust, you've got a long-term plan, and you keep communicating to your staff, because hiring new staff is only going to get more expensive in the short term. Lots of trades roles are going up in value, and therefore people are moving around and taking new jobs. So it is going to be an unfair playing field. So you need to do everything you can to maintain your staff and think about how you proactively bring new people in without breaking your wage structure and without putting undue pressure on your business. So something to think about there. And while we're on that, we are seeing business failures increase. So that's obviously something that was always in the offing, and it's not happened at the level everybody expected over the last 18 months. But as the support mechanisms such as furlough is now receding and stopping, then we are starting to see an increase in insolvencies. And as we've talked about many times, cash flow is the main cause of business failures. So have you done a 6-month cash flow? Do you understand where the pinch points are? Have you worked out what it's going to cost you to keep trading through the next 6 months? And if you haven't, then please do one, because it will just give you that confidence or put your mind at rest, or even raise some red flags that things you need to look at. Having a 6-month cash flow rolling is really important. So failures are increasing. We don't want you guys to be one of them. We want to help you make sure that you are ahead of the game, and a cash flow as a start point would be really important. Now, I read the other day about the £6 pint is going to be the norm in London, not in the Northwest or the East Midlands, I'm sure. but that got me thinking, actually, do you ask the pint of beer before you buy in a bar? Historically, the cost of a pint of beer was really important to people. And obviously, when we used to go to the pubs in a lot more regularly and a lot more numbers, you would certainly have a knowledge of what the cost of a pint is. But if you want cheap alcohol, if you want to drink cheap beer, you tend to do that away from the pubs now. And as we talk about on a regular basis, price should not be your driving factor. You've got to differentiate yourself. And we've seen some great venues, some great pubs offer far more than low price beer. You know, we've got the big chains like Wetherspoons having coffee. They've got great breakfasts, actually, you know, and then we've got the pubs like in Newark, so the Prince Rupert or the Ram offering food. You've got Flying Circus offering a real range of beers that's different to other pubs, and music at the Flying Circus. So the price of beer, I think, in a pub, while important because it makes your whole evening in terms of cost, actually you don't pick pubs in the same way as you used to based on the price of the pint. You're picking it about the experience. And I just thought it was really interesting that, you know, £6 pint sounds really expensive, but it's about everything around it. And that should be, any business should be focusing on what differentiates you from your competition. What are you doing that makes you different? Still going to be more expensive to drink beer in pubs. Climate change, we've got COP26 that keeps being talked about in the news because we've got all the leaders from the world coming up to Scotland in the next few weeks. So the question is always, what can we do to change the emissions in our business, and how do we lower them? And it always feels like it's the energy companies, it's big business that needs to make a difference. But actually, if we start at our level, then maybe we can all make a difference, because if everybody does it, then it will help to make a change. I got this from one of the 6 things that the UK could do. So from a government perspective, and actually this was produced about 24 hours before the news that there's going to be £5,000 grants for the heaters, the carbon heaters, for about 90,000 homes, so which is the subsidised warmth there, the number one. So cut the burger rate. They reckon that if that rather than trying to get everybody to be vegetarian or vegan, which is probably unrealistic, actually just cut the number of meat days. So actually encourage people to have 1 or 2 vegetarian days a week would actually make a big difference to the climate change in the UK. Street lamp charging. So one of the challenges for electric cars is charging points, and as we grow the number of vehicles, that's only going to put more pressure, and especially in high urban areas with high rise or flats where there isn't the same amount of space. So what they are starting to look at is street lamp charging, where you can plug your car into a street lamp, and obviously there's lots of those, and it's relatively low cost to actually change a street lamp so you can charge your car. So that would be a real step forward. Climate accounting, so getting firms to produce a report in the same way as they do for the finances on their emissions. One of the challenges for CEOs in big corporates is they're on short-term deals. They're a bit like football managers. They're only interested in the next set of accounts, the next season, because they know planning for the long term is not as sustainable as it should be. However, if you make it the company's responsibility, then it doesn't matter who's in charge for that 1 year or that 2-year period, because it's a longer term piece. So that's something that is important. Taxing carbon, do you tax people's carbon emissions, but how does that then impact on the consumer price? And if it's only taxing companies that are producing in the UK, does that make us uncompetitive between companies from abroad? So there has to be some way of managing. There's already a sort of an amount of carbon that companies are allowed to use. So they sign up to say, this is our carbon footprint for this year, and therefore that's important. But how does that get managed and measured and make sure that we really challenge and tax people who use too much carbon and don't work towards reducing it? And then they're throwing money at it. The CBI reckon £85 billion is required to help companies, businesses to really change their emissions and reduce them. And obviously, at the moment, throwing money at anything feels like quite a difficult piece for Rishi Sunak and the government. So, but unfortunately, it costs more generally to create a lower emissions business, and therefore you've got to find a way of commercializing that and bringing it out and working out how you can charge more for it, or how you can get more customers because of your lower emissions. So there's 6 things, and maybe you can think of 6 for your business that would help you. Is it an end to shoplifting? Amazon have been doing it for a while in 4 stores, but Tesco's now have got their first checkout free store where you walk in, you're signed into their app and their Tesco club card, and you walk around, you fill your bag up, and you walk out, and it charges your system automatically. It says a combination of cameras and weight sensors, so I'm wondering whether that weighs you going in and out. Maybe it could be, instead of Weight Watchers, you go to a weigh-in at Tesco's with the same bag of shopping. Anyway, so yeah, so is that the end of shoplifting? How does that change the game, which would be great? Obviously, shoplifting is a huge cost to the retail industry, and not something that it's again a sort of hidden cost that people don't understand or recognize. So but yeah, so checkout free stores in London for Tesco's. And I'm going to leave you with the last thing to talk about today is introduce you to Joe Barnard, of a CEO of a company called Marama. And there's a video link here which might be interested in to play from the BBC news feed. She runs a small design consultancy, and we talk about, you know, what's your role? We've talked about what's your job description. Have you actually written down what your job description is? And do you have a plan? Because here's somebody who runs a really successful business, but when she started, she tried to do everything. She was creative director, managing director, project director. She was doing everything in the business. She had a couple of employees, and they were successful for 18 months because they had some contracts. The contracts ran out, and they hadn't got a plan. They hadn't had a sales funnel. They hadn't had a pipeline. They hadn't actually planned what happens when that job finishes. And it's just a great recognition of, have the people in the business doing the jobs they're good at. And as the owner, the leader of the business, you have to have an overview, and you have to focus on the future. And without doing that, no matter how successful you are in the short term, you won't be successful in the long term. So there's a link there, so click on it and listen to Joe talking. So it's just interesting and something that we regularly talk about. What's your role, and have you got a plan? And then finally, our 3 workshops. So this week on Thursday, we've got the 4 circles of business success. And then next 4th of November, we've got the 7 essential business skills. And on the 18th of November, we've got 5 finance numbers business owners need. So join us at one of those, find us on Facebook, or click me a link through the website. So have a great day.